Welcome back, Tanja. You have been away doing some fantastic things, and I'm very happy to have you. So yeah, first of all, welcome.
Thank you very much. Very nice to be here again.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, we've wanted to organize this. I think we spoke it was a couple of weeks ago now. But obviously, you're extremely busy as well, and so getting it together. On an occasion when we are both sort of relaxed and can talk at our own sort of ease, without fear of we have to get to the next appointment. So it's you okay. First of all, we have to start in the first, the main talking point to start off with is this fantastic journey that you went on with a friend of yours, and it really fascinates me. And we spoke a little bit about it, and I would love if you kind of recount some of what you told me, basically, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely okay. That's fine. I love to talk about the trip because I love the trip. It was amazing. Okay, so what I did together with a friend of mine, a female friend of mine, we jumped on our both bikes, and bike in the sense of motorcycles, and we did a trip. In 13 days, we were traveling 2,500 kilometers through 5 countries, which means that we started here in Rhein-Main, in the Rhein-Main region. We went through southern Germany, through Switzerland, entered into Italy, went down to Liguria, to the region. How would you say Liguria actually in English?
Yeah,
Ligury?
we butcher the word as much. Liguria.
Okay.
But you have to say it with a mate at the end and holding a pint of beer in your hand. Otherwise, it's not the same effect.
Okay, so we went down to the coast of Liguria, and then stayed there a couple of days, discovered the region, and we did also continue then the trip along the coast, entered into France, visited Monaco, down till Nice.
Yep.
And then we did the whole journey back. Yes.
Okay. Can we also establish that your friend is another female? So this is 2 girls.
Yes.
On motorbikes.
Yes.
And how many times have you done this in the past, Tanja?
Never ever.
So this is your first trip, and your friend, had she done this before?
Yeah, she's motorcycling since over 20 years, and she did that beforehand. I did road trips, like tons of road trips in Europe, but by car or by bus or by train, but never by motorcycle, because I actually have my motorcycle only since now 3 months. So I had it 2 months when we did the trip.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, I mean, we're talking about 2 ladies, obviously, ladies of the world. It's not like you haven't left your village ever. So you've traveled about, what's going on, how things are. I have to say, when I jump into a car and I drive from the north of Germany to the south of Germany, I find it a daunting trip, even though I'm in a car. I mean, you and your friend on motorbikes riding through Europe. I mean, wow. As a respect to your sense of adventure for a start. I mean, how did you feel the night before, lying in bed the night before, the next day you're going to do that?
How did I feel the night before? Well, of course, I was a bit excited, that for sure. But actually, I had a smile on my face the entire time, because it was just something I wanted to do. And when we started the trip, we started on a Saturday morning. I think it took me the first 2 hours, like, to settle in, to like realize what's happening. I'm on my bike. I have my friend next to me. I have some of my stuff wrapped around on my motorbike, and I'm doing it. So, and then after this first 2 hours, I said, it became my reality, and it became normal. Like, I'm using here the word I don't like so much. I know that, but it becomes like, it was like, yeah, I have to admit that the sensation on the night before we started wasn't that big or that impressive, but what was very impressive to me, and what had a deep impact, was while we were riding, like the entire trip, whenever that the feeling popped up every now and then, I was like, this is something I wanted to do, and now I'm doing it. They're like, okay, you are currently realizing one of your dreams. So, and I love this feeling when you're like in a situation and you're doing things, and then you are realizing in that particular situation that there is something you had envisaged for some time. Doesn't matter if for a couple of days or a couple of years or decades. I don't know. It depends on the dream. And this sensation hit me pretty strong when we were driving along the Ligurian coast, because I am a very much an ocean person, a seaside person. Like, the ocean gives me a lot when I'm there. Not necessarily only when I'm swimming or sunbathing, but just like to hear it, to smell it, to feel it, to see the energy of the water and the waves and everything. And to ride along the coast in Italy, having my, like, sitting on my motorbike and having the sea next to me and smelling it and hearing it, and well, that was amazing. That was really nice.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, the way that you say it, and it's very reminiscent of the chat we had a bit about mindfulness, being in the moment, being aware,
Yeah.
Appreciating,
Yeah.
that which you are currently undertaking. I also see a little bit of like Yoda, sort of Yoda's sort of advice, feel the force, feel the moment where you are, and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, as in, I mean, spirituality, right? So
Yeah.
there is that element to it. But I mean, I was in Telaro in 2017,
Yeah.
which is probably on your path. Did you go past Telaro?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's on the Ligurian coast. Maybe you rode it more, perhaps.
I think it's tiny. It's small.
Yeah, it's
Maybe.
extremely. Yeah, it is extremely small.
Is it
But
east or west of Genova, of Geneva? Like,
I think it's west.
okay.
I think,
Okay, well.
but then I'm going to look at a map and it's going to turn out to be east, and it's already recorded, so that's it. End of story. I'm not editing it out. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about an hour and 45 minutes from Pisa. I don't know where that means.
No, then I've definitely not been there.
Okay, all right. But you're. I mean, I'm an Aquarian, but that doesn't mean anything because I can't swim. But in the flat that we stayed, which belongs to a friend, you sort of open the living room windows and you just see the sea, the Ligurian Sea, and it's beautiful. And as you say, the water sort of trails off to the end. It drops off the edge of the earth, and there's the horizon, and it's an awe-inspiring view. So I can't imagine how you must have felt. The wind in your, well, not quite your hair because you're wearing a helmet, but the wind in your face, riding your bike with a friend. It's that. Yeah, how would you describe it? Did you feel just really liberated in that moment?
The feeling was a mixture of being very, very present and very, very free. So for me, riding my bike, my motorcycle is equals to freedom, to a feeling of freedom, a certain feeling of freedom. Um, and and another thing, I mean, if we would have done this trip in Spain or in France, it would have been amazing as well, for sure. Differently, but nevertheless amazing. But doing this trip in Italy, like where I come from, where part of my family comes from, where I have roots, even if it's not the Ligurian region, it was another aspect which made it like very special to me. Yeah.
A sense of sort of coming home as
Mm-hmm.
well, but coming home to have an adventure too. It sort of rings. There's a certain contrast to that, because normally you go away from home to have an adventure, in which here you have, these sort of conflicting but extremely energizing concepts.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
yeah.
every year when I go and visit my family, I'm like hiring a Vespa, something like this, and I'm roaming around the coastal region, watching the sea and driving around. And I remember, since I've been a teenager, that I was, every now and then it hit my mind. I was like, one day I will do this with my motorbike. One day I will do this with my motorbike. One day I will do this with my motorbike. So I didn't do it now in the region where I come from, but I did it in Italy, and I did it alongside the ocean. So yeah, so that was really, really particular. It was a bit like my grown part was talking with my inner child, like, see, we did it.
Yeah. No, I completely appreciate that. There's a movie out by Disney Pixar, I think, is called Luca.
Uh-huh.
It's obviously set in some Italian village somewhere by the coast, and I've only seen the first half an hour of it, but there are sort of two underwater creatures which, when they come out of the water, somehow they turn into like boys,
Mhm.
and they have a dream of having a Vespa and taking part in a Vespa race. It's a charming little story, which you have to finish because it is fascinating. But what is it about the Vespa? Because I mean, there is something. There is a certain. I mean, is it the movies of the 1950s, like Napoli, La Bella Vita? I mean, is that the romanticism attached to it? Because it has a certain name, doesn't it, the Vespa?
Yeah, it has. Like, for me it's part of the Italian lifestyle. You, because you are very, do you say agile?
Agile.
Agile. Yeah,
Yeah.
you are moving in a very agile way around traffic and the cities and everywhere. You can be very, very
Disruptive.
yeah. That's, you said that. No, I mean, you can be very quick, and but for me, the Vespa, I like it because I'm very much into vintage. I like vintage style. I like retro. I like, my motorbike is also a bit vintage. I like clothes. I like some kind of music from this time, like, as you mentioned, the 1950s, 60s. And so the older something is, the more I like it, actually. So if I see, you could, for example, you could park one of the newest, most expensive cars in front of me, and I would be absolutely non-impressed, because yeah, it's a car, it's a new car, right? Okay, it might be black or white or red or whatever. Okay, but if you put an old timer, a historical car of me, then my heartbeat goes up, and I'm like, oh my god, it's beautiful. It's not that I'm an expert. I don't, I I could not repair that kind of car, and I don't know a lot about this car, but to see it, and then I get all fascinated and I get all excited, and start talking with people. And for example, in Italy, you have the Cinquecento, the little car. Like, I love them. I start making funny noises when I see one of those ones, but I mean the really old ones, you know. And I they are so nice, and they just put a smile on my face. And that's the same with the Vespa, like the old ones. I adore them. They're so, it's for me, it's a bit of history we are keeping in our days, you know, when you have all these old things. And I'm also not a person who likes to throw things away just because they are old. I mean, I have a bicycle which is all rusty, and my neighbor just a few weeks ago wanted to throw it away because he thought that nobody's using it. It was like, no, hell, it's working totally fine. It's just old, but doesn't mean that it's not working, you know. Yeah,
that's okay. It's a good thing you didn't see my facial expressions there, because rusty bikes wouldn't have lasted long in my presence either. But I completely get your point, though I do perhaps a little bit understand your neighbor. I have to say, please don't be offended. When I remember in Parma, which is when I started riding a bike again, because Parma is so small, you go from one side of the city center to the other in 15 minutes, and that also includes an espresso break in between. But I do remember what I used to hate was reaching the lights, and then a group of boys and girls driving or riding Vespas, and they'd come past and they'd stop in front of me. And I tell you, I almost fell over from the fumes coming out of these things. I'm sorry, it's terrible. I mean, they look wonderful, and I appreciate everything that you say about it, but they really do create some stink, don't they? You've noticed this, I'm sure.
Yeah, sting and noise. I know this. I know this. I know this. But nevertheless, my heartbeat goes up when I see them. I didn't say my heartbeat goes up when I smell them or hear them. But when I see them, no, you're right. You're right there. But it's yeah.
I mean, there's no. I mean, okay, you can get an electric Vespa, but it's not the same thing, I guess, for the Italian purist. You know, if it doesn't make that zzz, almost like the ape, the ape.
Yeah, I love them as well. My nonno had one. My grandfather, yes, my grandfather had one, and back in the days, it was already forbidden to transport people in the back, but of course he did it. And with my cousins and my brother, we were sitting in the back, and he was driving us around. That was amazing, and one of the best memories from my childhood in Italy. It was amazing.
Absolutely crazy things, but I mean, luckily, I guess road regulations have somewhat improved on the basis of safety, of course, if not good taste. Okay, all right. So you and your friend, 2,500 kilometers, you said, basically each way, that is, yeah?
No, in total.
In total.
That was in total, yeah.
All right. In 2 weeks, more or less, you showed me a couple of photos. I really like the one where you are reclining on the bike, and you're doing the signals with your fingers. It kind of reminded me of a character from Happy Days called Arthur Fonzarelli. I don't know if you've seen Happy Days. It's no, okay. Again, I think it's a 50s, 60s American comedy show. So therefore, again, it's a throwback to easier times. And he was just Mr. Cool, as in, he would walk into a diner, and if something wasn't work, he'd flick his fingers, and all of a sudden the music came on, whatever was broken would start working, and all the girls would come and say, "Oh, Fonzie," and it was just very, I guess we can analyze that from a, from a different perspective, socially speaking. But it was just Mr. Cool. He was just nice, but he was on his bike, sunnies, reclining, doing basically what you did. So, I mean, that was a great photo.
Yeah, I love that actually, and I have to say that the pose when I was lying there on the bike, that is actually, I copied that from my friend, because I've seen a couple of pictures where she did it, and I was like always so impressed. I was like, no, I cannot do this. If I do this, I will fall over myself and also the bike. You know, like there's no way to keep the balance. And then when we were there, we visited a Harley Davidson shop on the coast there. And in front of the shop, when we came out, I was like, I'd like to try this now. And if I fall over, then at least there is a garage here and I can ask the mechanic to have a look at my bike.
Yeah.
And she was like, the bike will not fall. You can relax. And then I did that. And I was like, wow, it works. I can do it. Yeah, you can also have a childish Vergnügen. How would you say that?
Oh my word! Was experience?
Excitement.
Okay.
A childish excitement, like over very, very tiny things. And in that case, it was like me. I was like, yeah, I did it. I'm lying on my bike. That was funny. Yeah, I like that picture as well.
Yeah, no, it's a great picture. I mean, now that you explain it, I can understand the big smile on your face. It's a relief that you haven't fallen over. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I have to say, my first impression when I saw you on the bike, I thought, if that were me, the next picture would have been me on the floor with the first aid kit somewhere, because it's just, yeah. But I mean, yeah, it looked very natural. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is actually also a thing which I'm very, in general, very, very thankful for, is that none of us fell. Like we did the entire trip, and nothing happened, in the sense of nobody got hurt, no motorbike got, I don't know, broke down, anything. Like it was smooth as, the whole trip was smooth as butter. It was amazing. Because I really expected that, okay, at some point something will happen, you know. I really expected it, because I also know the difference, how people drive in Germany, how people drive in Switzerland, how people drive in Italy, because I've done this trip all my entire life, at least once a year. So, and I had a kind of respect of driving a motorcycle in Italy, because I didn't feel so secure at the beginning, and then it was just naturally. And I was really, really thankful to whoever, the universe, whoever you choose, that nothing happened. We came back sound and safe in one piece. That was great. Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's people have to realize, and I'm definitely in the process of that realization, that, you know, even though you are fearful of any kind of potential mishap that could occur, of course, you still go out there and do it with a certain raw energy that you do, and that does take a huge amount of courage and a sense of adventure. I mean, do you think that you are okay now that you're ticking off all of these wonderful things from your bucket list? How would you describe this particular chapter? Because is it like you're pushing yourself? Is there an end point to this, or is it simply a question of, you know, I'm going to keep going for as long as I can?
I don't know. I don't have the feeling that I'm pushing myself. It's rather that I do the things. There is a saying. I'm a fan of little sayings, and there is a saying is like, you are what you are doing, not what you have the intention to do. Would you say that so in English?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. You are what you are doing, and you are not the intention of doing something. So, and I like this very much. And then the other thing, fear has sometimes been a reason for me, like I guess for many other people as well, to not do things. But I changed my point of view to the extent that, okay, yeah, I have fear and I have respect for a certain situation or project or whatever, but just because I have fear, this is no reason to not doing it. You got me?
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
yeah. And with this motorcycling and getting the bike now after decades, after I did my driver license with 18, it's not that I have a bucket list where there was standing like I have to do this road trip then and then. It comes kind of naturally. Like it had been like the dancing thing, the motorcycling had been in me since my teenager days. Why? I don't know. I mentioned that already in another of our talks, in another podcast. And I don't rationally understand why this is, but I know that I felt this. So, and that is enough for me, you know. So, and then this dream or this idea, this longing was mute for a long period of my life, maybe also because other things had a priority, or I made other things a priority, and now it popped up, and I didn't plan for it. I didn't plan to, like 5 years ago, like at this and this age and this and this situation, then I do this. It just kind of happened.
But you said before that you're not pushing yourself to do things or to experience more or to feel that crazy thrill. So these are essentially, so as you said, sort of dreams from an earlier days that have remained dormant within you, and then all of a sudden, it's just the time is right. That the stars align, and you decide that's it. Now is the time for me to do it. Is that basically?
Yeah, because for me, saying that I'm pushing myself has a bit of it equals like work. Like I have to push myself, but I don't have to push. Like it's pulling me, It's not that I'm pushing myself to do this. It's just like it's pulling me. It's how you say it's calling me.
No, it's your nature. It's you cannot swim away or against the current of your own internal desire.
And the thing, I think the precondition I like organized for myself is that in the last like 15 years I focused on certain things in my life, so I was able to live certain facets of my personality and my character, and that was amazing, that was great. But if you focus on certain facets, then there are other facets you are not neglecting, but you cannot focus on them because you cannot focus on everything at the same time.
No, absolutely.
And so at a certain point, like 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know, I realized that. I said, okay, this is fine. I did this the last 15 years and that is amazing, and I'm thankful for that, but now it's the time to focus on a few other things. And what I basically did was like creating some room, some space for myself, and then the things popped up. I didn't sit down like in the next 5 years I want to buy a motorcycle, I want to enhance my dancing experience, I want to create a SensualTalk. No, that what the first step was, to create space for me. And then once you have the space and you allow yourself to fill this space, the things popped up. They automatically popped up naturally, and then I just followed.
Yeah, I really enjoy this organic sense that you explain. You know, that it doesn't have to be a struggle. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to be,
exactly.
yeah, a difficulty, a problem. It's not like you have to completely revolutionize your life. You know, that Thelma and Louise style moment, you know, which I sort of alluded to when we talked before. You know, that's not the circumstances which, you know, took you and your friend, you know, on your fascinating journey. It was simply a natural expression of what was already inside.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
very nicely put. Yeah.
yeah. I've been listening to you. Yeah, this is.
Yeah, and you're a native speaker, English speaker. So.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'd like to say we could switch to Italian, but I'm not sure that I could handle it yet. But yeah, maybe one day, one day. Un
Okay.
giorno facciamo, okay?
Ok, va benissimo.
Okay. But yeah, it's great. You also mentioned sensual talk, because this was another thing that it has occurred in between our last chat and today. You were invited to take part in this, what seemed from the video that I saw, a really, really nice, special, I should say, better than nice event. Do you want to explain a bit about the background of the event and how it came that you were invited, and then, you know, the event itself?
Yeah, I can do that. Actually, I like to do that. Yeah, there was an event here in Offenbach, which was called the Kultnächte Offenbach, so the cultural nights in Offenbach, and it's still ongoing, I believe. So it's an open air event where they are showing movies in an open air venue. And one of the movies they've shown, like I think 2 weeks ago, was Woman, which is an amazing movie. I haven't seen it before, only that night, and I was deeply touched and impressed by this piece of work. And I can only recommend to everybody to see the being like gender doesn't matter. Yeah. And a friend of mine, she was invited to moderate this evening, and the organizer wanted to have a chat before they started the movie. And so they invited the Gleichstellungsbeauftragte from the city. How would you say that in English?
You would say that by, first of all, sticking it into the translator. Okay. Can you explain it to me?
Yeah,
So
she's responsible here in the city for the how do you say that?
Event organizer or something?
No, Gleichstellungsbeauftragte means that women and men should be treated like in the same way.
Of course. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. An equality consultant or something like this.
Yeah, something like that, but for the city here.
Okay.
So she was invited, and then there was another lady invited who is running since 20 years a martial arts studio for girls and women. And there was a lady, she works in a network, in a women network, also here in this region. And then there was me, because this friend of mine who moderated it said that would be a nice idea, and she made the suggestion, and so the organizer liked the idea, and so I was invited as well. And then we had a chit chat, the 4 ladies plus the moderator, and and I had the chance to explain a little bit what is the sensual talk, why am I doing this, and that was fun. I like it. It was the very first time that I talked publicly about the sensual talk. I enjoyed it very much, and I had also a very nice, very positive resonance, and
Yeah, the feedback. Yeah.
feedback. Yes, thank you. Feedback. Ladies coming to me afterwards and like sending me emails, subscribing, let's say, to the SensualTalk. I would like to get the emails. I'd like to get the newsletter, and so on and so on. So yeah, really, really nice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the video that I saw, obviously, it was very much, I think must have been taken by a friend of yours.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay. I mean, is there an official video of the event where all of the presenters were
No, there is no official video. What I can do is I can have a look if I can see if I find a homepage. Otherwise, what I did is, ta-da! I set up an Instagram account for the sensual talks, and I posted a couple of pictures there, and yeah, so kickstarted this dead account, this so far dead account. Yeah. So yeah. So there one could see some pictures, but no.
Okay, we'll put a link up then later on in the description so that people can access it and at least have a sense of the atmosphere. Because I mean, the video that you sent me obviously is particularly personalized towards your talk.
Yes, yes.
But I mean, you spoke. What's the thing which is really, and we're going back to another word, is natural. Yeah, you are extremely natural. You're in your element. You're talking about something which is important to you. You know intimately. You know what you want to do, and yeah. How did it feel? You said you got some very good feedback. You said the resonance, so therefore the atmosphere, as it were. But you know, looking into people's faces, telling them about what you're doing, talking about these semi-taboo subjects still, how did that feel?
A very good question. Because this is actually what I do when I am on stage. I don't only focus on the moderator, but I also try to look as much as possible into the audience. And it felt okay. It felt good. I knew what I was talking about. Like, I mean, it's a very nice and very kind when you say like it comes naturally, and yeah, because I feel very authentic. If I have the chance to talk about things I know what I'm talking about and where I am very passionate about, but also work-wise, if I know my turf, then I go. Like I go, like you try to stop me, I go. Yeah. It's completely the opposite if I don't have a clue what I should talk about, and then I rather do not go for it. But and I know that it is a very sensitive topic, and I saw many women and men in the audience of different ages, and I knew that some of the things I said might be might make the one or the other person feel a bit uncomfortable. Yeah, because one thing, for example, I said, and there is where I got actually positive feedback, is where I said, look, when I grew up, I didn't like my mom didn't tell me, look, first time you're going to have sex, well, that's going to be a blast, that is an amazing thing, and like all joyful. No, the thing you get to hear as a teenage girl, at least in my case, and also in the cases of many women I know, is like, be careful you don't get hurt, be careful you don't get sick, be careful you don't get pregnant, be careful you don't get raped. You like, it's all a red flag. There's nothing about joy, being relaxed, experience yourself, your body, your senses. There's nothing about sensuality. It's but if you have a look, if I talk to boys or to men, to friends of mine, they don't have this. The connotation of sex is rather positive, and this is something like could we please come to a place, to a situation where we have also this positive connotation of sex for girls, like, or for women. And this is something I said, and when I didn't plan to say it, I went with the flow, and then actually afterwards a few ladies came to me and picked this out, pinpointed this part of what I said, and said that they like to hear that. So, but yeah, I mean, I said it, even if people would have come to me and said like, well, that's crap, like, but I said it.
I mean, it's, this is definitely a topic which we could sort of dedicate an entire conversation to. I think it's
put it down on the list.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, damn that list, yeah. And
it's not getting shorter.
It's definitely not getting shorter. It's not getting easier either, yeah. But it's one of those things. I mean, yeah, absolutely right. There is this huge, you would say, how is it, not a discrepancy, but there's a complete difference in how the parents, you can, if you have a son and a daughter, and the older child is the son, and you say to the son, oh man, your first sexual experience is going to be like this, this, and this, and it's going to be fantastic, explosive, you're going to blow your mind. But then the same parents go and approach their daughter, who a couple of years later reaches that experience, and they say basically what you just said. So I can imagine this happening. I mean, I haven't had a sister, so I can't associate this kind of conversation while growing up. But obviously, I remember my first experience, and I guess luckily for me, the person involved, it was also the first time for her, and yeah, I can only say is that it was a bit like fumbling around in the dark, as in, I don't want to make out that it was this amazing experience, but it was, neither of us had a clue what was going on. As in, okay, we basically knew, we'd read the instructions, but we didn't. Really, it was a bit of a struggle for both. I'm surprised we got together for a second time. But yeah, it's just one of those things. You live, you learn, right? But
yes.
What we both, I mean, we were both very young, clearly, but I mean, we approached it with a sense of fun and adventure. It wasn't some, this has to be done. There was no peer pressure involved. There was no, serious responsibilities. If we don't do this, then we're not a proper couple or anything like that. It was fun. It was adventurous. It was I think mutually disappointing.
But still, it still sounds amazing, because it sounds amazing. I'm not saying that the first time or every time you have intercourse or sex or whatever is a mind-blowing event, experience, but even if it is already a luxury if you can approach it on a neutral level, but not with a negative mindset, Sure. And that's already, that gives you so much freedom and to experiment, which is amazing. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, if you were, for example, in a situation where you're talking to a parent, either or, and they're saying, okay, how should I advise my child? Should I advise my child, for example, to seek to have their first experience with somebody who is a little bit more experienced? Would you recommend that that they just let nature take its course, to the first partner's the first partner, and so on and so forth? I mean, what would your advice be in that kind of a situation?
My advice would very clearly be, if you don't know what you like, you cannot expect anybody else in the world to know what you like, because you are the one who has to show the other.
But that takes time, doesn't it? Because that takes...
Yes, it takes time, but it doesn't only take time. It takes also Aufklärung.
Certainty, clarity.
The kind of clarity that it is not like, for example, for a girl or for me as a woman, it is not the responsibility of the man to give me my orgasm. I have to know what I like, and so I have to be able to express that, and I have to know what I don't like, and I have to be able to express that as well. So I mean, there are so many, talking about ladies, so many ladies out there who still don't know how they how do they say that in English, like how they in how the uh,
Induce.
no, that like the intimate place, like their
Oh,
vulva looks like.
the G-spot thingy.
No, no, not the G's, like how they look like they've literally never sit there with a mirror between their legs to see
Ah,
like, that's how I look like down here. You
ah,
know, we
okay.
all like all of us are able from the childhood to draw a penis. I tell you, like, let's do it, and let's go out and ask people to make a sketch of a to draw a vulva,
Mm.
like, you know, like, and as if you don't even know how it looks like, you know, like, okay, where then, and then the next one, the next step is also, okay, how do I have to how do I have to touch myself? What do I like? Do I like it a bit more like dynamic? Do I like it a bit more soft? And you know, these
Mm.
things.
Mm.
And of course, you would not start with like every 12-year-old, but at least like if you, this should be part of the sexual education. You know, it's not like I don't know how I look down there, but then I go and have intercourse with a boy, like if we talk now about very young people, you know, like if we talk about like the very first time, like, I mean, yeah, I
Mm.
mean, we've been there, like all of
Yeah,
us
yeah,
have
yeah.
been there. So yeah, and yeah, I would actually, to come back to your question, actually, I would encourage um, parents, aunties, grandparents, like if you, and this doesn't count only for teenagers. I mean, this counts for every age. Like, you need to know how you look like and what you like to feel.
Mm. I mean, this is something I've never considered, and for obvious reasons, and so therefore it would never have come to my mind naturally. However, having explained what you mean, I definitely see the logic in it, but it's more than just simply logic, is it? Because you have, you know, as in boys, they always talk about, you know, this the extra toy that they have. And so, you know, naturally, you know, girls also have a toy, although it looks very different. So,
Yes.
and I'm reminded of this sort of 1960s comedian who used to talk about how during the war he made it through because he had one more toy to play with than the girls, and you know, people found it very funny. But I mean, that it never really struck me as being amusing, because I was always of the opinion that yeah, it's a different toy, but it's still there. It
Yeah.
still does the same job. And so, yeah, you're right. And also, when you mentioned talking about these things in a more positive aspect, that's always also fundamental, because if you grow up thinking that, you know, this conversation, sex, your experiences are a normal, relaxed, happy, pleasant thing to take with you on your journey, then you're more likely to approach it in a relaxed, stress-free manner. But if you sort of take the approach that you're, oh, look, this is extremely serious, sit down, you need to learn about this now because you could be in the shit if you don't know what you're doing, you know, you're straight away instilling fear, which is, I think,
Yeah.
what you're alluding to.
Yes. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like, and also the people who are listening, and I mentioned that also in the discussion during the event. I'm not neglecting. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. There is rape. There is sexual harassment. There are negative experiences, and it is very important to talk about this. It is very important to change this, but there are options to do this. But what I am missing, and what I missed already a couple of years ago, is to also also have the opportunity to talk about sensuality and sexuality in a positive manner, because it is not only always a negative experience. And also, it's, for me, it's also part of empowerment for every person, men and women, and like all gender, like your sexuality is your responsibility.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they say if there's one endearing element to capitalism, it's that everybody's taken care of because it advises you to take care of yourself, and so the society in which we live currently would sort of lend itself to people, at least in this sense, going through that process of self-discovery, but also being able to do so in a sort of pressure-free way, in a way which is enlightening and
Playful,
yeah, yeah,
for example.
yeah. So it's amazing, isn't it? We jump into these conversations completely through the back door. So okay, your experiences at this event. So it was. Do you think you'll do more of these kinds of live talks? Because obviously it was successful in the sense that you got lots more people to engage with you and what you're doing. I mean, do you consider the possibility of like doing, I don't know, a bit of a tour, having this conversation and, sort of teaming up with sort of local organizations for different genders to come together and have these discussions? Because there's a need, Tanja.
I would love to do that. I'd love to do that. Like, I'd love to talk more openly about or publicly about this topics with two people and with people. But I still don't have an idea how to do this. Like, for me, for example, this SensualTalk on tour I mentioned in one of the former podcasts. Like, I'd like to do one in North Rhine-Westphalia, and I would like to do one in Berlin. This goes for me in this direction. And of course, I had also the idea to talk more on open events, but I didn't search for it. I didn't push for it. In this case, in this occasion, it came. And for now, I will focus on the SensualTalk, like the normal format, and we'll see what happens. I mean, if I get invited, if people have ideas for collaboration, I mean, I have tons of ideas. I think there are so many ideas that I at some point don't know how to get started. So, yeah, yeah, that is rather the problem I have. Yeah, yeah.
But it seems as though things develop, as going back to your previous term, naturally, organically. These things seem to create themselves by continuing to do what you do. People will see it, and they will invite you more to engage with greater communities, greater groups. So yeah, perhaps it's not that far away at all, actually.
We will see. I keep you posted.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Because we'd love to follow this journey through the podcast, and also to always hear your thoughts on these issues. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, we're approaching that kind of time now. But before we began this podcast, I was listening to another podcast based it's by somebody called Mr. Boom, and he does Xbox podcast. So it's a bit of a gaming thing. So when you're talking about the child inside you being greeted by the adult, your sin perhaps is the motorbike. My sin is going back to video games.
Okay.
But this was a particularly fascinating podcast because there were basically 5 men, and they were talking. And normally, all they focus on is computer games. And they spent the first 45 minutes of this particular 2-hour podcast that they do talking about sexual discrimination, about how women are daily, verbally abused at work when they work as waitresses or in shops or doing their job by their colleagues, by their bosses. And they were going absolutely crazy. And this is just all men.
Hmm.
And I have to say, I've been listening to these kinds of podcasts for over a year, and this is the first time that I've heard them go absolutely crazy. These guys were getting really emotional. It was a live one, so the host had to pause halfway through and suspend somebody from the live chat because they were being disrespectful. It really unbelievable. So it lends itself to what we wanted to talk about, which was freedom of speech, and also to draw in a bit of a connection with the event. When you were there, did you feel any pushback? I mean, you said some people, maybe they had these uncomfortable looks on their faces, but did you feel at any point there was a sense where people were like, I don't want to hear about it. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to watch a movie. I don't want to talk about this. Sit down. Did you have any kind of negative sense like that?
No, I didn't. But I don't know if I didn't because there was really none, or because I didn't focus on it because I was so much focusing on what I wanted to transmit. But no. I had the, like, in my mind, I was like, okay, I am here to say what I want to say, what I have to say. And what I always try to do is to communicate things in a way that I don't offend people. But just because one is trying to not offend doesn't mean that you really succeed. But no, I didn't. I had the feeling that I could say whatever I wanted to say. And that is, for me, also a precondition, because otherwise it's kind of fake, like yeah, please come and talk about, but don't mention this and this, and don't talk about that and that. That's censorship. And we have enough censorship, historical censorship on that topics, like sensuality, sexuality, femininity, also masculinity, and all this.
I mean, how important? I mean, for example, you do the SensualTalk events, and you are in a group of people that you are. How important, in your opinion, is the idea of freedom of speech?
It's one of the it's one of the top priority. Like, you can only, like, if you are not like, if you don't have freedom of speech, I actually basically don't have to do. I can also stop organizing these events. And this is like why I am this is actually basically, I said before that I'm trying to that what I missed was to have a nice space, a positive space to talk in a positive and nice way about these topics. So my assumption is, my hypothesis from the very beginning is, and this is actually what I was also seeing then, I want to create a certain atmosphere, a secure atmosphere, a comfortable atmosphere, so that people actually start talking, start sharing. Because it's not only to have the freedom of speech, but it's also like, the one thing is you have the freedom of speech. The other thing is, like, do you dare to say what you want to say? And this is why I'm also always, and this is also what I stated at the event, this is why I'm so like very serious about the Chatham House rules, that you are not, like, it's a safe space. You are not getting quoted. Things can be quoted in general. It had been said that one of the ladies shared that, but you would never say, like, Linda said, or I don't know, Petra said, or like this. It's so yeah, freedom of speech for me has a different, like, levels, facets. Just because you have the freedom of speech, theoretically, doesn't mean that we use it.
Yeah, now you're adding an element of sophistication, which, yeah, just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do that thing. This also incorporates,
or you dare to do it.
or you dare, indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but
And if it comes to this topic of sensuality and sexuality, many people do not dare. They have the freedom of speech. They could talk about this, but they don't dare because of traditions and whatever norms.
Yeah. I mean, because I think there are many things that have to come together for the kinds of societal changes that you definitely would like to see incorporated. Me, absolutely, as well, in support of you, and all those who want to remove the extremely unjustifiable discrimination that exists. But lots of things have to come together, and we see groups say, okay, well, it's my democratic right to say this, and I can say, yes, it's your democratic right. But as you said, you don't always have to make a statement, especially if it is disrespectful, especially if it is insulting, especially if it is overly aggressive, because there are other principles in society as well, such as respect, such as tolerance, such as understanding. And just by pursuing your democratic rights doesn't necessarily negate the relevance and importance of these other elements.
Yeah, listening to what you said, two things come into my mind with this regard. Is the one thing is that it's not only important what you say, but for me it's always important how you say it. So one like rule or guideline I'm living after is like, everybody can say whatever he or she wants to say, but it always depends on how you say it, and that nobody gets hurt. And this is not only for what you say, but how you act, like what you do. You feel free to do whatever you want to do, as long as nobody gets hurt,
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, and people say, "Oh, you want to create what kind of a society?" And then they start, completely misusing the word woke, as though it's some kind of an insult. But the truth of the matter is, even when you want to say something which is perhaps in disagreement with somebody else, perhaps in absolute direct conflict with somebody else, as you said, it's the way that you say it. It's the way that you challenge somebody. It's possible for us to disagree. And
absolutely, it would be so boring. If we would all have the same opinion, we would not learn, we would not develop, we would not evolve.
Yeah. So when people want to advocate diversity, the last thing they want to do is to create a non-diverse argumentation system. Yep. So it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, what can we do? Unfortunately, this is the world we find ourselves in.
The thing for me is like, if I have a discussion, then you can, in my opinion, you can focus on two different things. One way is to focus on expressing your thoughts. So I'm in a discussion, like we are talking, and I am expressing my thoughts. The other way would be, I'm trying to convince you that my thoughts are the only way to see it. And that is, like, for me, like, not the best way. That is like, I mean, if we talk and if I share my thoughts with you, and at a certain point, after an hour, a year, 10 years, you say, like, you remember, Tanja, back then we had this talk and you made me think, and then actually I changed a bit my point of view. But my primarily aim is not to change your point of view. My primarily aim in this case is to express my thoughts. Whether the other way is like very intrusive, right? Like I'm only expressing my thoughts in order to make you change your way to think. That is manipulative.
Yeah, and it's also you as you say this, it makes me remember how I used to be up until just a few years ago. So I can't even claim to have reached enlightenment. So many years ago. I remember when I was younger, and I used to watch the people older than me. They used to have what we called cussing matches. So it would be essentially there'd be a group of guys in the changing rooms, and two would take turns to basically joke at each other, insult one another. No physical things, but you had to win. It doesn't matter what happened. You had to win, and this approach stuck with me for a long time. I have to say, whenever I used to engage in serious argument, I had to win. I had to come out of their argument victorious. And that either meant that I had carried the majority of the people who were watching, or I had convinced my interlocutor that what I was saying was correct. And unfortunately, it came to me very late in the day that to realize actually there is no right or wrong.
Yeah. But in this case, for you, a discussion equaled a battle.
Yeah.
So, and it is, and the base, the one of the basic thoughts in this case is that you are opponents. The person you are talking to is your opponent. Whether the person you're talking to could also be, just another person, and you are sharing the experience of having a talk, a discussion, and that is not about winning or losing. It's about exchange.
Absolutely.
Or?
Absolutely. Yeah. Energies are transferred, aren't they? And yeah, it's fascinating, Tanja. You do take me also down memory lane.
That's great. I like this. I realized this that already twice at least. That's cool.
Crazy. Some of these thoughts that have long remained dormant. Yeah. Cool. No, it's brilliant. It's because it's also it sort of shows our own development. I mean, you and I here, we're talking about how we would like society to be able to view itself, but it's also that cool that we can, or we should also reflect on our own approaches. And I would wish that whoever listens finds reaches their sort of sense of wisdom earlier than I did, and in far more easily too. I might add, but anyway. Tanja, what can I say? Wonderful. I mean, we chucked in so many various things, and yet you always do find this magical way of combining the talk, and bringing it back to the original thread, which should actually be my job, but you do it so well, so I don't even need to do it. I'm just enjoying the ride.
I think that's because I like the questions you're asking, so I definitely want to answer them, but I just go round and round and round a bit.
No, it's brilliant. No, it's brilliant. It's brilliant, and I learn a lot, and it's each conversation is an experience, and I'm certain it's the same for those who listen as well. So once again, what can I say? Thank you very much for joining me, for sharing this experience, and I just look forward to the next one.
Thanks so much for having me the fourth time again. And I also look forward to the next one then in August. That'll be great.
Wonderful. Then I wish you well.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Bye.
And